Hello again, this is Jeff. Welcome back to my cave of cool books. Today I want to do a brief shelf tour, try to keep it brief, of my Robert E. Howard collection, mostly paperback collection. I do have some hardbacks, which I'll talk about later. But again, I can't compete with the likes of, probably Tim at Secret Fire Books or Paul at Geeks Loves Dogs. And for sure, can't compete with Michael K. Vaughan, who has probably every single edition possible of Robert E. Howard's work under the sun. Now, Robert E. Howard is a writer that I got into as a young reader, young man, probably in my teens and early 20s. Got quite a few of the paperback editions that were coming out, or that had come out and been published in the 70s, etc. So, during the nostalgia boom, Glenn Lord, of course, we all decry what L. Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter did, the hatchet job they did to, adding a lot of their own stuff and kind of diluting and polluting the great original Robert E. Howard stories. But one thing they did do is make Robert E. Howard's name really popular again in the late 60s and in the 70s. And so that opened the door for more, closer, less edited works to come out, chiefly pushed by the holder and controller of Robert E. Howard's estate, or at least most of his estate and his works at that time, Glenn Lord. And he put out or helped spearhead some great collections in paperback. So a lot of cool paperback editions were put out by Berkeley Medallion and Bantam, and of course Zebra. The Zebra ones are a little rare now, and they're very cool. Some really interesting art and covers, and sometimes interior art. Of course, these days, the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press putting out and also the Del Rey editions, some fantastic stuff that is putting out all the original and unaltered Howard material. And those are the ones to get, I would say, for the purists for sure. And I plan to get a lot more of those myself. I don't have any of them at the moment, but I am going to get my hands on those soon. But in the meantime, I have a lot of cool paperbacks, which are pretty great, pretty cool editions. Now, Robert E. Howard is an author that I, always have enjoyed reading, but I kind of got out of reading fantasy in general, and Howard also, and Burroughs, and some of those great pulp writers in their intervening years as I moved overseas and, got busy with other things, including getting married, starting a family, etc. But again, partly thanks to Michael K. Vaughan, or chiefly thanks to him, talking about Robert E. Howard, Burroughs, some other writers, has rekindled my love for some of those treasures from my youth. So I'm been enjoying kind of reigniting my love and enjoyment of these great pulp fiction writers. Of all of them, I think Robert E. Howard is the best and most naturally talented. Just such a pity he took his life at such a young age. Who knows how much more great stuff we would have had he continued. Unfortunately, because I kind of had bought a lot of Howard stuff in the past, but wasn't reading it at the current time when I moved to Japan, a lot of it is left back in the States. So I'm going to finish the back half of this video with some other works I have of his in paperback, vintage paperbacks that are back in storage. And I will put the covers of the editions I have up on the screen here as I talk about them. I'm going to try to make this one shorter. Hard for me, because I'm a blabbermouth and go blah, blah, blah all the time, but I am loved and excited about this stuff. So let's start with one that I did read and talk about on this channel previously in one of my earliest videos, and that's The Three-Bladed Doom, the one L. Borak novel written by Robert E. Howard. Now, L. Borak was Robert E. Howard's great kind of desert adventure hero. He was basically a Texan who came to the Middle East and got involved in all sorts of adventures, and just a fabulous character. And this is a terrific, full-blooded, action-packed yarn. I highly, highly recommend it. There's ever so slight little one tiny element encounter with a kind of beastie that's a little bit borderline fantastical, but mostly this is just straight up historical adventure, and it comes with my highest recommendation. I also have this collection of 3 stories or novellas by Howard featuring El Borak, Francis Xavier Gordon, and that's the Lost Valley of Iskander. I always used to pronounce it Iskandar, like in Star Blazers, but since it's with an ER, it probably is Iskander. And Bandit Grammaticus did a really excellent overview of this book a while back. It has some really cool art inside there. The cover art must be, I think it's Jeff Jones did the cover art. Michael W. Kaluta did the interior art. And does the cover get any? I don't know who did the cover, but I'm going to say it looks like Jeff Jones, reminiscent of Jeff Jones. Anyway, it's a very kind of atmospheric cover. And Michael Kaluta's interior art adds to the real blood and thunder effect of these stories. Then I have 2 Bantam books of Solomon Kane stories, and these are cool. They have, like a lot of both the Bantam and the Berkeley Medallion ones, they have some fold out covers here. This one is Solomon Kane, Skulls in the Stars. Solomon Kane, of course, is the puritanical, dour, and complete badass. Travels around believing he's on God's mission to rid the world of evil forces, and these are fantastic stories. This one has Skulls in the Stars, The Right Hand of Doom, Red Shadows, Rattle of Bones, The Castle of the Devil, The Moon of Skulls, The One Black Stain, and Blades of the Brotherhood in it. I believe Ramsey Campbell might have finished one of these stories, so they might not be completely pure Howard, but mostly they are, to my understanding. And then I also have The Hills of the Dead. Again, very fantastic cover. Looks like Steve Holland posed for this one. Good old Steve Holland of Doc Savage cover fame. Again, we got a really cool fold-out cover there of some weird beasts against the moon there. This is when he's in Africa. Solomon Kane's venturing around Africa, taking on all manner of crazy creatures and bad guys. And this one has The Hills of the Dead, Hawk of Basti, The Return of Sir Richard Grenville, which I believe is a poem. Wings in the Night, which is a really great story. The Footfalls Within, The Children of Ashur, and Solomon Kane's Homecoming, which again is another poem. So again, similar to Nick at the Book Graveyard, I'm not really big into poetry, especially storytelling poetry, but Robert Howard wasn't bad at it. Anyway, these 2 slim volumes pack in, I believe, most of the, if not all of the Solomon Kane stories. Solomon Kane is probably, along with Francis Gordon, probably my favorite Howard character. I know, don't attack me, Conan fans. Conan's great. Cole is great. Many other cool characters. Breckenridge Elkins is great. Sailor Steve Costigan is great. Okay, I like all those guys, but something really clicks for me for both Solomon Kane and his brooding, single-minded focus, and also just the never give up, instantly and constantly resourceful El Borak. Those guys are just really cool. I like those characters a lot. The only problem I have with these Berkeley Medallion editions, and again, they're pretty awesome, but they always just put by the creator of Conan on the top, and so a lot of people might have picked up these thinking they were getting Conan stories, when actually they're getting other stories. Okay, so this one is The Marchers of Valhalla. Again, very cool cover there, with a foreword by a special introduction by Fritz Leiber. Okay, so this has, I believe these are a bunch of just miscellaneous sword and sorcery stories, and this has a cool fold out. How awesome is this? Fold out version of the cover painting inside. Gotta love that. And I believe these are just I don't think these are necessarily only historical adventures. I think these might have some sword and sorcery as well. We have in here, we have a bunch of stories featuring non-series characters, I believe. So we have the Gray God Passes, A Thunder of Trumpets, Marchers of Valhalla, the titular story, of course, Sea Curse, Out of the Deep, The Thunder Rider, For the Love of Barbara Allen, okay, and The Valley of the Lost, okay, and published by arrangement with Glenn Lord, again, at that time, executor of the Howard estate. So I think these are mostly historical adventure, because it says on the back, in these brooding tales of Earth's distant and heroic past, Robert E. Howard, the creator of Conan, always capital letters, Conan, okay, foreshadows both his greatest works and his own tragic and mysterious death. Interesting. The fierce and doomful clashes of a heroic age when the gods and men crossed blades. So I'm guessing not so much sword and sorcery, probably more historical fiction, but Howard really excels at that kind of stuff, so it's probably pretty great. And then I have this collection of Kull. I believe this is also a bantam, looks like a bantam to me, similar to those fold-out cover ones for, this is bantam. Map by Tim Kirk. Tim Kirk does a map of Kull's Atlantis, I guess there. And we have Kull's Great Adventures Together for the First Time. Fold-out cover there. And if you put it with the back as well, it's quite striking also with these weird, cool pterodactyl-like beasties. I've read a few of these Kull stories. I'm sure these are little tampered with perhaps at that time. But I can't say for sure, not having... it's got an introduction by Andrew J. Offutt. At any rate, cool collection there. Kull. By Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan. They actually, Kull's big enough dude that they didn't blast the name Conan up there. Instead we get Big Kull. Only Kull and maybe Solomon Kane get that kind of treatment. I guess, of course, this is Bantam, so they're being a little more respectful of the characters they're focusing on, perhaps, than Berkeley Medallion. Speaking of, edited by Glenn Lord, the second book of Robert E. Howard. Now, I don't have the first one, and I don't have the Zebra Books editions, which are very cool. I do have some Zebra books besides this Lost Valley of Iskandar. I believe this is a zebra. Yes, this one is a zebra. They're lovely books. I have some more back in the States. But the second book of Robert E. Howard is a collection of, again, not his best stories, but some interesting stories, a good variety of his stories. And again, Conan being shouted on the front there. This has some letters from or a letter or two, I think, and some other pieces or essays by Robert E. Howard, as well as stories like Sword Woman and some other well-known ones, Black Canaan and Kelly the Conjure Man and The Footfalls Within, and what else? Two Against Tyre, Guns of Khartoum, etc. So quite a variety of stories in that one. I need to pick up the first book of Robert E. Howard, although I imagine many of those stories are collected in the newer editions from Robert E. Howard Foundation, so that might make this redundant. I also have, and I believe I mentioned this one in my Edgar Rice Burroughs and Imitators, although I never would call Howard an imitator, but this is probably his close. I might have talked about it there, but if I didn't, here's Almeric or Almeric, however you want to pronounce it. This is one of the few novels that Howard wrote, and it was kind of unfinished, kind of patched together at the very end. But so it's a little rough around the edges, but it's a fantastic piece of imagination and fantastic sword and planet fiction. Very good book. And again, this is a Berkeley Medallion book with some illustrations, some cool illustrations. Here's original Weird Tales illustration by Virgil Finlay for this, right? In the frontispiece area there. And there's some others, I believe, scattered through, perhaps. Well, not many, but anyway. Cool wraparound cover there. Okay. And that's it for what I have here with me. But what I do actually still own, and I know I own from my records and also my recollection, of course, back in the States in storage, I have the following. I have Black Vulmea's Vengeance, which is, I believe, 3 pirate stories by Robert E. Howard. I have Worms of the Earth, the Bran Mac Morn collection. Bran Mac Morn being the Pictish king or warrior. I haven't read any of those, but I've heard nothing but good things about that series. Tigers of the Sea, Cormac MacArt, which I read an online Kindle version of earlier this year and just loved those stories. Cormac MacArt is a Irish kind of soldier of fortune who throws in with a crew of Vikings and has several adventures, and those are great stories. Unfortunately, there weren't enough of them for my taste. I actually have Black Canaan, which I think is a collection of some of Howard's more perhaps racially insensitive as well as weird menace stories. I have also the the Cthulhu Mythos book that Robert E. Howard put some of his Cthulhu Mythos stories. I don't think, there are several versions of those. I'll find my cover and put that up. I can't recall the title at the moment, unfortunately, sorry. I have his collection of historical fiction stories, which are also highly, highly well regarded. I haven't read any yet. I'm looking forward to, when I get back to the States next time, to pull these volumes out and bring them back with me. The Sowers of the Thunder. I also have the Swords of Shahrazar, which is, I don't believe there's any more Francis Xavier Gordon El Borak stories in there, but there's I believe, Steve Allison and some other kind of second run sort of similar characters to El Borak that Howard wrote in that same kind of Middle Eastern, Iranian, Afghanistan kind of period, 1920s, 19-teens adventure fiction. Looking forward to getting my hands on that. And I also have, I know you guys are going, where's Conan? Speaking of Conan, don't you have any Conan? Yes, I do have some Conan. Not all of Conan, but I do have both in paperback and in hardback. I have Red Nails, of course, and then I have the one Conan novel, The Hour of the Dragon, and I also have People of the Black Circle. Those last 3 are all in hardback. So, thanks for watching. That's all my Robert E. Howard collection. Like I said, I'll be getting a bunch more. I'm planning to order all 3 of the Del Rey Conan, more recent collections that restore all, the stories to original full-strength Howard, plus various fragments and other things. And I plan on getting the El Borak version they put out and some of the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press works. There's a Sailor Steve Costigan collection out there from some cool small press, which I need to get my hands on. There's just a lot of stuff. So thanks again to Michael K. Vaughn for getting me back into Howard, and thanks to Robert E. Howard, wherever you are, for all the great work that you put out and continues to enthrall readers to this day. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.